morning, church. Just stand and sing with us.
Remember those walls that we called sin and shame? They were like prisons that we couldn't escape. But he came and he died and he rose. Those walls are rubble now. Remember those giants we called death and grave? They were like mountains that stood in our way. But he came and he died and he rose. Those giants are dead now.
Sing it out.
This is our God, this is who he is. He loves us. This is our God, this is what he does. He saves us. He bore the cross, beat the grave. The heaven and earth proclaim, this is our God, King Jesus. Remember that fear that stood in the way. Faith so weak that we could barely pray. But he heard every word and every whisper. Now those altars in the wilderness tell the story of his faithfulness. Never once did he fail, and he never will. This is our God, this is who he is. He loves us. This is our God, this is what he does. He saves us. He bore the cross, beat the grave. The heaven and earth proclaim, this is our God, King Jesus. Who pulled me out of that pit? He did, he did. Who paid for all of our sin? Nobody but Jesus. Who pulled me out of that pit? He did, he did. Who paid for all of our sin? Nobody but Jesus. Who rescued me from that grave? Yahweh, Yahweh. Who gets the glory and praise? Nobody but Jesus. Who rescued me from that grave? Yahweh, Yahweh. Who gets the glory and praise? Nobody but Jesus. This is our God, this is who he is. He loves us.
Good morning. Heck yeah, you guys are very spry. I like it. If you don't know me, my name is Evan, and normally, a few months ago we decided to just roll from worshiping God through music to right into His Word. We're leaving the announcements for the bulletins as well as for the weekly newsletters that are sent out through email. But this morning, I kind of want to take a moment to point out something that I think is pretty important, and it is a form of worship. In 2 weeks, we will not be down here, but rather we'll be gathering together as an entire church up at the main campus off of Highway 44. And it's an amazing time to come together as a church family, 500, 600, 700 of us packed into this beautiful meadow. It's just hard to find a better place to worship God, in my opinion. After that, we'll have the opportunity for baptism. And that's really what I wanted to spend a moment pointing out to you. Baptism has nothing to do with salvation. Come and talk to me if you want me to defend that biblically, but it has nothing to do with salvation. That's simply our faith in God. However, baptism is something that you see throughout the entire Bible as things that people who have faith then do. And it's a public proclamation of their faith. And so if you cried out to Jesus, you believe in Him, you placed your faith in Him, but haven't yet taken that step, I strongly encourage you to think and pray about it. There's people within this community over the last 5, 10 years that as they've come out of that water, it's been a transformational experience for them. It's just this tangible step to highlight God, right? As we're just singing, to invite Him to do more within your life. So in 2 weeks, we have an opportunity to get baptized, and it's in the creek, a little chilly, but man, talk about an amazing spot. I just want to put that before you guys. All right, now let's get into His Word. First, by opening up our minds to Him, inviting Him in through prayer. God, we take a moment to pause, just to shut our mouths, to breathe You in, to acknowledge Your reality. Spirit, we want to hear from You. That's why we're here. So we invite You into our space, into our hearts. Please give us something, God. I should say, please open our eyes so that way we can see the things that You are giving us. We trust You. Amen. All right, so as a community, this is our third week in studying through half a dozen Psalms. Now, I'm not sure how this is going for you, but personally, I'm loving it. The Psalms are such a beautiful way to see who God is, who I am, and what the ways in which I should live in a different way than we are through the letters or through the historical narrative. For me, after studying through the first two Psalms that we did, Psalms 18 and Psalms 139, they are both helping reframe the way that I see my life into the way that I should be seeing my life. And they're also giving me language to express the way that I want my heart to be, right? The words that I want deep within me. Let me quickly give you a couple examples from the past 2 weeks. With Psalms 18, whenever I read through that again, or my mind goes back to the overall framework that David was laying out, I am then encouraged to thank God for all the different things that He's been doing in my life. And then when I do that, it then puts me into a spot where I can confidently speak out the beginning stanza of Psalms 18. I can say, I love You, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, my deliverer, my God, my rock in whom I take refuge. By reflecting on God's goodness in the past, it puts me into a much more confident place in my present. Also, when I take the time to speak lines from Psalms 131, like, I have calmed and quieted my soul, like a weaned child that is within me, when I take time to speak it and meditate on it, it then brings me to my place in the universe. The fact that I am not God, but that there is a God, right? Did any of you try that this week? I hope so. For me, because I did this, it then allows my soul to be calmed and quieted, which the longer I live, I'm realizing that's truly what I long for, to just be in that place of contentment. Having the Psalms is such a gift, one that we should be going to daily to allow the Spirit of God to move into our hearts and then settle into our minds. This morning, we get an opportunity to look at one of the more well-known Psalms, Psalms 139. If you have a Bible, feel free to open, turn, scroll, whatever to it. As I was reading through it, it makes sense to me why this is such a well-known psalm. It's so beautiful and powerful. But I got to warn you, we're going to be looking at it in a way that may be brand new for you. Right? This style of interpretation, it was definitely new for me. Now, instead of seeing it simply as a psalm of praise, I'm discovering that it may also be a time in which David was expressing his desire to be free from God and his control, but then comes to understand that even if his heart didn't want it in the moment, there was no better place for him to be than in God's presence. Now, for those of you that know the Bible well, you may be having an interesting reaction to that statement. You may be curious, you may be full of doubt, right? The beauty and the problem with interpretation is that I could be wrong, right? But please just stick with me for a little while and let me try to explain to you where I'm getting this from. Unfortunately, we don't have the chance to read through the entire thing because I know our attention spans are much shorter than I would like, right? So we're just going to walk through it verse by verse. So as with all of his psalms, the first line sets the tone and the premise for the rest of David's song. He says, "O Lord, you have searched me and known me." David is stating that God had searched him. Like we'll see in verses 2 through 4, this means that God had explored David's mind and analyzed his thoughts. Because God did that, he knew David intimately. Every other time that I've read that, I've always seen it as a positive thing. That David is glad that he has a God that has the ability and the desire to get to know him personally. But by spending the time digging deeper into the psalm as a whole, it's caused me to wonder if, at first, this was too personal for David. Let me give you some different verses that made me wonder this. The first spot is the last two verses, 23 and 24. David at the end says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. See if there's any wicked ways in me and lead me in the way everlasting." This is an incredibly powerful and humble statement. And in it, David is inviting God into his innermost world so that way God can discover his wickedness. So that way the perfect creator of everything can find David's selfish flaws and point them out. So that way David can be led away from his inherent wickedness. And when you think about that objectively, it's easy to see the value behind this desire. Allowing God to lead a person away from the things that are wrong. Yes, this is good. This is what we should all be desiring. But when you think about it on a more personal level, it becomes a little harder to be okay with. Think about your father sitting down with you and listing off all of the ways that you are wicked. And this isn't just based on what you did. It would also be based on your thoughts and your feelings. Anybody else's hearts clamming up a little bit at that? Right? It would be both humiliating and disheartening and extremely restrictive. God is not only showing you the way that you aren't perfect, but also telling you that you shouldn't be thinking and feeling the things that you're thinking and feeling, right? The things that are naturally coming to your mind and your heart. I believe that David was able to end at this point of reverent submission to his God that we see in these verses. But first, it seems like he had to move through a process of being transformed. And this is what I want to show you this morning. The process that we must all go through and continue to go through in order for us to be in a place mentally and spiritually to invite the ruler of the universe into our lives. Because we want him to do what only he can do. Like David said in verse 24, to lead us into the way everlasting. Now, this directly ties into what we explored last week with Psalms 131, that we are all in the midst of a spiritual pilgrimage, that every single one of us is being continually formed into a replication of whatever we are worshiping. Whether it's our culture, it is the God of the Bible, your mind and your emotions and your willpower, they are being molded by whatever you go to for life. In this Psalms 139, I believe that we see David go through some important and potentially powerful steps to help him continue in his journey up the mountain of God. To continue, using C.S. Lewis's language, to move onward and upward. Now, to give us some structure to this, I see it happening in three ways. In this psalm, David first recognizes and admits that he wants to be in total control over his life. After that, he then brings his mind back to the foundation of his reality, why he exists. And the third thing he does is he makes a conscious choice to repent, to admit his wickedness and his need for God. So recognizing and admitting his desire for control, bringing his mind back to the foundation of his reality, and then a repentant heart. So let's start with the way that David first recognizes and admits that he is hesitant to let God into his life. Before we get into that, it's always been helpful for me to remind myself that a psalm is a poem, which is the poet's thoughts. This means that we are looking into David's introspection, more or less his journal. Now, we already looked at the opening line. In verses 2 through 4, we get a little more insight into the way that David is seeing the fact that God intimately knows who he is and what he is struggling with. He says, "You know me when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, O Lord, you know it completely." In these verses, David is describing God as omniscient. I'd imagine you guys have heard that word before. A quick English lesson. Omni is a prefix, means it comes at the beginning of the word, and it means all or all-encompassing. That prefix is then attached to other parts of the word, like sent, to complete the word. Sent means knowing, aware, or knowledgeable. So omniscient means that God is all-knowing. In these verses, David is saying that God knows absolutely everything about him, which again, as I've always read these verses, we should see this as a good thing, which it is. It's amazing. This is one of those qualities that fully sets the God of Israel apart from every other God. In the ancient world, gods were limited to either a certain location or to an element of nature, right? They were not this all-encompassing. But from what we see clearly shown throughout the Bible, Yahweh's power is beyond limit. There is no end to what he can do. And this is such an amazing quality of God. But remember, we're not reading through a theological textbook, are we? What are we reading? A psalm or a song or a poem. And as it continues, we get to see David, a real human just like you and me. We get to see his reaction to the fact that God knows everything about him even before it happens. Verse 5, David says, "You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me." In the Hebrew, to hem in means to tie up, to bind, to encircle, or to lay siege. I think it's fairly safe to assume that David isn't having a positive reaction to recognizing God's omniscience. As he realizes how intimately God knows every single thought and desire that he has, even before he knows it, it appears that David's natural reaction is to push away from God. For me, this becomes even clearer as he continues to write. Verse 6, "Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high that I cannot attain it." I've always assumed that the word wonderful means amazing, which it can, but in the Hebrew, this word is more describing one's inability to comprehend what is happening, which means in the context of what David is writing, he may simply be expressing that his mind is blown with this realization of God's all-encompassing understanding of him. In verses 7 through 10, as we continue to read through the Psalms through that lens that David may not be a fan of God's power, it appears that David continues to write that God being this way, it is too much for him. Verse 7, "Where can I go from your spirit, or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me fast." In the second half of verse 7, David says the exact same thing that Jonah says 3 different times when he's literally trying to run away from God and his plan for his life. In verses 8 and 9, David explains that no matter how high he goes or how deep he descends, no matter how far he goes to the east or to the west, it is impossible to get away from God. Like he says in verse 10, no matter where he goes, God's hand will lead him, and his right hand, you guys know what the right hand is symbolic of? Right? 95% of you are right-handed. It's power. It's like how we do things. And he's saying it is impossible. That right hand will hold him fast. In this stanza, David is referring to God's omnipresence. You guys remember what omni means? All, or all-encompassing. So you connect that with presence, and what do we have? All present. God is always everywhere. I heard a helpful analogy from Tim Keller on this. Often when people think about omnipresent, they think about a type of gas. When you open a container and release it, it spreads throughout the entire room. But that's not the way it works with God. With gas, the molecules are extending. Yes, they are filling the room, but this is through spreading itself out. But with God, he is fully present in every space and time of all of our reality. He is what the theologians call repletively present, which according to Google AI, right, powerful research tool, it is defined as something that is present in a way that fills everything completely and without any limitation or boundaries. It suggests a fullness of abundance that extends through all things. Through this Psalms, we're seeing that David is understanding that God is fully present in every single moment of his life, no matter where he goes. Which, just like God's omniscience, this can mean different things depending on the person's perspective of themselves and of God. In one sense, this means that God is David's ever-present ever-present help in any time of need, which that is amazing. And it also means that God can best guide him into a really good life, which is another incredible thing. But this can also mean, based on your perspective, that God knows every wicked desire and thought that David has, and he will be there to directly interact with him when he chooses to disobey his plans. Are you guys seeing the power of perspective? In one sense, it's amazing, but in the other, God is seen as overbearing and restrictive. You know, I believe this is where the rubber meets the road, where David's realization of the reality in which we live becomes difficult for him to live with. Now, regardless of whether he wants God's presence and his involvement in his life, David cannot get away. Remember verse 7? Where can I flee from your presence? Now, before we start judging David, the reason why he struggled with this is because this has been a universal problem with mankind from the very beginning. You know, we talked about it last week by looking at our pride. The way that Adam and Eve chose to elevate themselves over God shows that in the core of every person, there is a desire to be our own gods and do the things that we want to do. You know, we see the same desire in every single individual of the Bible except for Jesus. And honestly, we see him intentionally battling against it. In everyone else, in Noah, Abraham, Moses, Joshua, David, all the disciples, and Apostle Paul, right? Everybody that's been raised to sainthood, through reading the narratives that describe their lives, we see clear evidence of a deeper, driving desire to pull away from God and his control and then to live according to their own egos, their pride. I love how clearly and humbly Paul describes this battle that he is in. Romans 7, he says, "For I do not understand my own actions. For I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. Now, if I do what I do not want, I agree with the law, that it is good. The law is good. So now it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells within me. For I know that nothing good dwells in me, that is in my flesh. For I have the desire to do what is right, but not the ability to carry it out." This last line, it's amazing. I've had friends that have done tattoos with it. It just like defines our reality so well. For I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I keep on doing. Because of how innate this desire is in everyone, including you and me, we're also seeing it full-fledged in the culture of our day. Because of the Age of Enlightenment and the existentialism, it's a philosophical way of thinking that was produced from the Age of Enlightenment, right, out of the belief that science is far better than our faith in God. Because of that, our culture has gone one step further in our rejection of God's authority. Not only do we push back against his plans for his life, we're also denying that he exists at all. In the words of Jean-Paul Sartre, a 20th century French philosopher, man is nothing else but what he makes of himself. Half a century later, Richard Dawkins, a famous atheist of our day, he wrote, "There is something infantile," right, like a little child, "in the presumption that somebody else has a responsibility to give your life meaning and point. The truly adult view, maturity, by contrast, is that our life is meaningful, as full and as wonderful as we choose to make it." Because of how appealing this sounds, our culture has grabbed a hold of it hook, line, and sinker. And it is the name of the game for the 21st century Western world. As author A.J. Swoboda put it, as he described our culture, a worldview devoid of a worldview devoid of a desiring creator liberates us from our responsibility and accountability to somebody outside ourselves. Since no higher power exists, it's thought we're free to do what we want. We become our own higher power. The only desire that exists is the desire within yourself. Leave God behind, follow desire, you do you. Are you guys seeing the reality of this all around us? As beautiful as this may sound, which it is at first glance, if we're honest with ourselves, this is a temptation that we are each battling with every single day. But from what I've seen throughout human history and in my own life, being the God of your own life is amazing until a wrecking ball crashes into your glass castle. This destruction can come in many different forms, like you making a stupid choice, or somebody that's around you making a stupid choice that directly affects you, or the fact that this broken world rears its ugly head and through disease or sickness, right, things crumble. You know, if we had the time and a humble enough spirit collectively, I could pass around this microphone and so many of us could share the different firsthand experiences that we have had that show us, and we are not in control of our lives. Even though we don't want to admit it, we are so powerless in the grand scheme of things, which means that things will not always go the way that we want. And if we're honest, they won't always go the way they should go, so that way we can survive. And when this happens, our previous choice to reject the God who is real, that choice that we thought was so liberating, when our circumstances fall apart, which they will, if we have rejected the one who is all-knowing and ever-present, we will then be in a position of hopelessness that no matter how confident or enlightened a person may seem to be, they will crumble under the weight of their circumstances. You know, there's different ways that we could now take this discussion. The one I want to go with is pointing out our need to be proactive. Because of what will come our way, we must make the choice today, as in right now, to see God's power in a better way. Through a lens that's not focused on you, but one that is open to the reality of the universe that is all around you. Now, I don't know when David wrote this Psalms. We're not sure if it's at all connected with Uriah and Bathsheba. You guys know that story? Sleeps with his wife and then kills him off, right? Or this might be associated with some other trauma that David went through, right? Something that kind of opened his eyes. But in verse 11 and 12, we see this potential shift in his tone of voice and his demeanor towards God. We see David making a choice to see things differently than he had been in the verses before. So verse 11 and 12, David says, "If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me and the light around me become night. Even if the darkness is not dark to you, the night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light to you." Darkness and light are really common metaphors used throughout the entire Bible. And every time an author uses it, light is always good and darkness is always bad. This means that at this point in David's psalm and his mental processing of who God is and who he is, he's beginning to recognize how necessary God is. In these lines, David is beginning to understand that even if this evil in his world may seem to have the ability to cover him, right, to blot out all that is good in his life, the God that he was unsure of wanting to have too close, he alone has the ability to fight back against it and fully defeat it. Think about that. Where there is light, there is no what? Darkness. In the 6 verses that follow, David then declares God's omnipotence, the fact that God is all-powerful. And he does this by reflecting on a fundamental truth, why he, David, exists at all. Check out his words in verse 13 and on. "For it is you who formed my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works that I know very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes beheld my unformed substance. In your book were written all the days that were formed for me, when none of them as yet existed. How weighty to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them. I try to count them. They are more than the sand. I come to the end. I am still with you." In these verses, I haven't discovered a single ounce of negativity or hesitation towards God. Instead, it seems like David's heart has much more fully embraced God's power and his control over his reality. Now, I don't know David's order of thought process, whether he first surrendered to God and then began reflecting on his omnipotence, or if he first recognized God's omnipotence, his power, which caused David to surrender. But regardless, what I hope you to see is that when a person takes the time to think through the most basic question, why do I and the world and the universe as a whole exist? When we do this, it can open our eyes to just how insignificant we are and how amazing our Creator must be. You know, I love the way that David digs into the details. Long before science had developed the tools to help us see how miraculous, in the miraculous ways in which every person is formed, David declares that God knit him together, that he was intricately woven in the depths of the earth. David seems to understand that for him to be who he was, it required an all-powerful being to handcraft his existence. One of the most powerful contributing factors for the solidification of my faith in God is that the more that science discovers, the more that it points to the necessity of there being an all-powerful being who did exactly what David said he did. This past week, I'll give you a point, I had the pleasure of hanging out in my neighbor's backyard with a couple surgeons. One of them is an ophthalmologist, means a surgeon on the eye, and the other an orthopedic surgeon. Smart, driven men. In our conversation, the ortho mentioned that the complexity of the natural world is proof for them of their having to be a creator. To which the eye surgeon smiled and said, like the complexity of the eye. This reminded me of something I read in a book. In Reflections on the Existence of God, the author quotes Dr. Ming Wang, right? Who, to give you a little precedence behind what he says, he had a medical degree from Harvard and a PhD from MIT in laser physics. Even though Dr. Wang was raised as an atheist, through science he discovered the reality of God. He said, the more I learned about science, the more, not less, evidence that I saw of God's creation and design. For example, as I was becoming an ophthalmologist and learning about the inner workings of the eye, the amazing and logical arrangements of the photoreceptors, the ganglion cells, and the neurons, I realized that there is absolutely no way that an intricate structure such as a human eye could ever evolve from a random compilation of cells. The very complexity of a human eye is, in fact, the most powerful evidence of the existence of God. When a person takes the time to honestly and selflessly look at our reality through the most basic level, there is no denying that everything we are and all that we know has been, as David said, fearfully and wonderfully made. Sadly, though, even though the proof is there, so many people are choosing not to believe. And I believe that everyone's doubt is ultimately stemming from the same mental space that David was in during the first half of his Psalms. It's from our desire to be in total control of our lives and of a world that we did nothing to create. But when a person is willing to examine the evidence through a humble mind, our eyes and our hearts can be open to not only God and his omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotent qualities, but even more importantly, we can begin to see his love for us. Check out verses 16 and 17. David says, your eyes beheld my unformed substance. In your book were written all the days that were formed from me when none of them as yet existed. How weighty to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them. This is describing far more than just an all-powerful creator, isn't it? David is seeing God as a loving father who is not only completely sovereign over him, but a God who desires only what is best for David in all the days that God had given him. In this Psalms, I believe we are seeing David moving from not wanting God to be too close to now understanding that God's nearness is exactly what he must have. It seems like he is realizing a fundamental truth, that without God, he would have absolutely nothing. But because of God, through God, with God, he has everything he needs for this life. If this is at all stirring anything in you, please act on this afternoon or this evening or tomorrow morning. Now, depending on who you are and the way that you're wired, Right? For you, it might be, oh, sorry, Carrie, grabbing this book. This is what I quoted out of, right? The Eye Doctor, Reflections on the Existence of God. We for sure have this one. There might still be one on the back shelf. Right? In this, there's 5 to 10 page chapters in which he walks you through philosophy, science, all these different things that point out the proof of God in layman ways. You can get into the world of apologetics. Come and grab it, right? I'll put it back on the shelf if you want it. Right? Maybe that's not for you, right? But one thing that you definitely can do is this evening, as it kind of settles into that beautiful golden hour, or tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. when the sun rises, get outside. Leave your phone behind. Walk through nature looking for God. I promise you, if you are looking for him, evidence of him, you will see him everywhere. All right, I know we've looked at a lot. But for those of you that want to take one step further in your journey up the mountain of God, right, just please stick with me for a couple more minutes to see the last thing that David does as he closes out this psalm. In the last stanza, we see him take a crucial step to moving deeper into his willingness to depend on his Creator. He takes the position of having a repentant heart. Starting in verse 19. Oh, that you would kill the wicked, O God, and that the bloodthirsty would depart from me. Those who speak of you maliciously and lift themselves up against you for evil. Do I not hate those who hate you, O Lord? And do I not loathe those who rise up against you? I hate them with perfect hatred. I count them my enemies. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. See if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. To be honest with you guys, in the past, I didn't know what the heck to do with these verses, right? So I would just stop in verse 18. But in reading them through this lens of David moving from pushing away from God to inviting him in, I've begun to see that these verses are David openly standing against the wickedness that is around him, and then him giving God permission to cleanse his heart, David's heart, in any way that he needs to. Let me quickly show you where I'm getting this from. In verses 19 and 20, David declares that anyone who doesn't follow God's ways wholeheartedly is worthy of death. You know, Jesus says other things, right? Remember, this isn't a theological textbook, but this is rather David's thoughts, his heart. And I believe where he's going with that is standing against the culture that was all around him. In the same way that we could say, you know, this idea of fully inclusiveness, that everybody gets to heaven in their own way, that is not true. Be like us standing against that. Then in verse 21, he asks questions concerning his view on these types of people, right? And so he's starting to reflect, like, all right, this is how I want to see these people, but do I really? You know, before I would always read this with a tone of confidence, but now I'm wondering if David was genuinely asking those questions with this tone of voice. Do I not hate those who hate you, O Lord? And do I not loathe those who rise up against you? More of this inquisitive, like, I wonder how I really feel about this idea that in the end, love wins for us. Yes, I understand objectively that that's not what the Bible says, but is that really how I feel? You know, in verse 22, David responds to the question with the answer that he should have. Yes, I hate them. But check out what he does in verses 23 and 24. He asks God to search him, to test his heart, to see how he really feels about those who don't follow God. I hope you're following my train of thinking. In these lines, David is both declaring how he should think and feel about the ungodly, but then he is also inviting God into his innermost being so that way God can do only what he can do. Purify him of that innate evilness that David knows is in there. And then after that, lead him into the way everlasting. In this, I see David out of that newly established understanding of God, right? The fact that he needs God in his life. Out of that transformed mind, he is openly admitting, I am not perfect, God. Even though I want to see these people in this way, there's a good chance I don't. And then inviting God to bring about that change. Now this one, it can be a little or a lot harder than this idea of recognizing God's reality in our lives. But all we need to do is invite our all-powerful Creator into our lives. It's truly as simple as that, right? And what we'll see, in the same way that God created all that we know out of nothing, he can take the darkness that is within us and he can turn it into light. You know, as the musicians come back up, I want to pray for us. You know, zone me out, enter into your own prayer, but I just see the importance right now of us collectively bringing our minds before God in the same way that David did. God, in this space, I first declare our gratitude for you making us. God, thank you for knitting us together, for putting breath into our lungs, for allowing the sun to rise, for giving us the beautiful black hills in August. We declare that this is all from you. And out of that, we gratefully just come before you. From that mindset, God, we also ask that you would continue to do your work within us. We invite you into our minds, into our hearts. We ask that you would point out what is within us that is not from you. As hard as that may be, God, we ask that you would do it and then remove it from us. Lead us away from it and lead us into your way of living. God, you are our God. We humbly acknowledge that in this moment. And we position ourselves before you and your authority. Whatever it is that you want, have your way. Amen.
before I even knew what love was. You've brought me here to rest and given me space to breathe. So I'll stay still until it sinks in. I will lean back in the loving arms of a beautiful Father. Breathe deep and know that He is good. He's a love like no other. You will never leave. Your love sustaining me. Before I even knew what love was. You've brought me here to rest and given me space to breathe. So I'll stay still until it sinks in. And I will lean back in the loving arms of a beautiful Father. I will breathe deep and know that He is good. He's a love like no other. Yeah, I will lean back in the loving arms of a beautiful Father. We'll breathe deep and know that He is good. He's a love like no other. I can see your love is better than all the others that I've seen. I'm breathing deep of all your goodness, your love and kindness to me. Now I can see your love is better than all the others that I've seen. I'm breathing deep
just want to take this time right now and just remind you guys of just how faithful God is in our life. And kind of like Evan said in the sermon, he's always there. And we've had firsthand experience to see his presence in one of the lives of the people in our church. You've probably, last week we talked about Cecilia and Isaac and how Isaac was in a major plane wreck. And unfortunately, Cecilia's brother passed away in that wreck as well. But there's some amazing goodness in what is taking place within our community through that. You guys have stepped up in an amazing way and come alongside her. And she's overwhelmed with just how God's presence has shown up through you. So thank you for being God's hands and feet. Thank you for showing up for this family as they go through a really hard time. I just also want to give you the opportunity that if you're going through a hard time, if there's a place in your life that you're feeling like you're at your wit's end, we want to pray with you through whatever you're going through. And so there will be people up here as we finish our set today that will pray with you as you walk through things. But I just want to pray really quick. God, you are faithful. You are so good to us. You never leave us. You are always with us. And God, even when circumstances are hard and we get busy in our day-to-day of what we think is important, God, you never leave us. You are faithful, God. And so I just thank you for being that presence that ever is there. You're always there, God. Help us to just turn to you throughout all of life's moments, God. The highs, the lows. Speak to us as we walk through our days, God. Reveal yourself to us so that we can continue just to be in your presence and walk the life that you have planned, because it is good. Thank you, God, for using your church. Continue to be with Cecilia and heal Isaac, God. Be with that family as they are just walking through a valley. But I am so overwhelmed with joy, God, to know that you are there, that you are there with them. You are covering them with your presence, and just speak to us in ways that we can reach out to others, God. And we just love you and praise you. Amen.
Got you.